food became the thing that stopped me from reaching my goals, because I would save my calories for dinner. I would think like, okay, I've just eaten less in the day, so now during dinner it's fine for me to eat a big dinner, and essentially I think sometimes when we talk about numbing out, it feels like you're numbing out into a bad state. The strange thing for me is like I numbed out into the goodness of that meal. I numbed out into the joy, into that person, into that friendship, into the food. It was all good things, but it still numbed me out.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Breaking the Cycle. Today, I have with me a very, very special guest and a client who's going to be sharing his story. This is one you're not going to want to miss, specifically because of what he does, what he's struggled with, and where he is right now. So I'm not going to wait any longer, and we're going to get right into it. Hi, Aiken.
Hi, Natasha.
How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so excited
Me too.
that you're here in Singapore.
I know. I forgot to mention that. We're recording this in Singapore. That is
Yeah.
amazing. And the fact that I get to meet you and so many of my other clients,
Yeah.
I can like hold your hand in person
know.
rather than seeing you on screen.
Totally.
Thank you so much for joining me today and being so open, honest, and vulnerable to be sharing your story out to those that will be listening. So thank you. Before we start, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and then why you decided to seek coaching with me.
Yes, so everybody, I am a food and travel content creator, and I always think like, well, yes, I struggle with food. How I got to work with you was I was on vacation and I was doom scrolling TikTok, and you had shared a story about how you had lost 60 kilos and put 30 kilos back on, and I was like, I just saw myself in that story because a year before, I had gone for a personal training session. I lost 10 kgs. I was super lean, the fittest time of my life. But just a year later, I put on even more of that weight back. And I was like, there's something off in this equation, and I have not figured out what it is. But when I heard your story, I'm like, okay, she knows something I don't, and maybe she could, lead me and help me out. And that's how I booked the discovery call, and that's how we got started.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember our discovery call till today because we were talking a lot about the points that you struggle with. And it was, eating more than we needed to at times, having that end date in mind. And so, as I do with every client, how was that first week of us working together for you? What were some of the things that you noticed that were coming out that were not usual to the other people that you've worked with, maybe a PT, maybe a nutritionist in the past?
Yeah. This one, I always go like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's telling me to do that. Like, am I on the right program? Or is it even a program? I don't know. Things like, I think we started off by you saying like, you're in Bangkok right now, you're on holiday, just observe how you eat and what you eat. And I just remember thinking, okay, where's the program? Where's the calories and whatever? And actually, I had thought that was an assessment. I was going like, maybe she's just trying to see like, what are we working with here, And I remember falling back to that usual pattern of, since I'm going to start something with Natasha after the assessment week, I better just eat all I can. I just better eat what I want. And when I sort of thought that and defaulted to that, I remember feeling like, wow, I really always eat to a point that I'm so uncomfortably full. Yeah.
Yeah. And at that given point, you and I had calls then, and we kind of started uncovering and discovering a lot about your relationship with food growing up as a child. There was also this deep rooted fear of the scale, that came well into your adulthood. So if you want to just take us first into why you started doing what you do, because I think that all tells a story there. And what was your relationship with food as a child?
Yeah, so I grew up in a school where everyone was really rich, and I was from a lower income family. So I thought everyone's either really rich or I'm very poor, and it turns out both were true. So I was looking at all my friends eat at all these expensive restaurants, and I'm going like, why doesn't my parents bring me to any of these restaurants? So I told myself, when I grow up, I'm gonna eat at the best places. And you know what? I superseded that, right? Because now as a food and content creator, like a food and travel creator, I get paid to do that. And so I was like, this is the promise I made to myself. And I think beyond that, it was a way to show myself that in Asian culture, it's like the most basic thing is food equals love. Sometimes our parents don't ask us, how's your day? They just ask, have you eaten? And so it was more of a display of love to myself, thinking back for the love I felt that was absent in my life when I was growing up, coupled with the fact that my parents were separated. So I would meet my dad weekly, and I would have to separate from my dad. We had to say goodbye. And it was always so devastating to me. There would never be a time where I'm not crying when we went in the opposite directions. And we do this thing where I will always look back as he was leaving, just to say, like, just to wave goodbye, because I felt like, oh my, I don't know if I'm gonna see him again. I hope I get to see him next week. And what I had not realized as a child that I had done was I had taken the allowance that he would give me for the entire week, and I would go to a basement of a shopping center when he's no longer there, and I would buy so much food and I would eat it. And this never registered consciously to me. It just was something I did. And I blew all my school allowance on the snacks and to eat. And looking back now, I think that's my way of just saying, like, oh, after feeling so devastated or feeling so abandoned from being separated from my parent, I really need some soothing. I need some comfort. And I was in public, right? I was at a train station, so I couldn't cry, couldn't break down, just teared up, went to the shopping center, and I ate. So these were sort of like, I guess, foundationally how it started for me and how I built certain habits or how I related with food.
Yeah. And how did that carry on to your adulthood, to the point where you and I started working on together? Because now you can see the links, right?
Oh, yeah.
How did that carry on?
Oh my gosh. It showed up in ways like, if you ask any of my friends, they would say, don't over order. And I always go like, what are you talking about? And I always over order. And I think subconsciously that was me saying, yeah, I can afford this. Yeah, I'm not poor. I'm not low income anymore. Or that was my way of saying, when I was younger, I didn't get to, so now I'm going to. But it was like, whoa, at every meal, at every point, like, what, that was like, I don't know, like, it just got to a point where I wasn't even conscious of it. And then to add to that was, because I didn't have a family, a very nurturing home environment, I was in a church community that was very nurturing, very encouraging and loving. So what I had done was I built up all my teenage years of arranging dinners with friends. And these were great moments. So these was moments where we had good food, and I had amazing friends who are like my family till this day. And we would bond, and I would receive, and it would be so healing for me, the combination of nurture from friends plus the food. So that became a very strong positive, but it still remained very, very strong. Yeah.
What do you think you were trying to do there? Were you trying to make up for lost time or to prove a point?
Both. Yeah. I was trying to make up for lost time by saying, I never got to eat this as a child. And the point that I was trying to prove was, y'all didn't even value me enough to bring me to a nice place to eat. So I'm gonna love myself enough. I will fix this. I will solve this. I love myself enough. And that's so weird, right? Because like, such a strong motivation, and calling that love as well, is, now looking back, I'm like, whoa, I don't know if that's love or that's resentment. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so beautiful for you to realize that now that you're looking back. The part I want to get into, because the way I like to look at things is there's areas in our life that we can work on. We're not completely bad, we're not completely defaulted. So, in your particular area, what we were focusing on, you were amazing in the morning, right? You were like the epitome of someone who is healthy, eats well, works out. I mean, I looked at your calves yesterday and I was like, what the hell's going on here? Like, how much does this guy, does the calf press? But everything we did, I do all my health checks. So I do water, sleeping, everything. But then there was a part of your day that completely took over. So if you want to just kind of take us through your routine, what does that
Yeah.
look like? Because I'm sure people can relate in this slip up that happens. And where did it kind of go downhill from there?
Yeah, so I'm a model student, all right? I wake up, I sometimes would, I'm not used to eating breakfast, so even learning to eat breakfast now is interesting. But I would maybe have my first meal at 12, and it'd be a high protein meal. I would check all the boxes. Water is in, sleep is 7 hours, and I will work out 4 to 5 times a week. Strength training, cardio. I actually love working out. And so I'm just like, something is off here. And it's exactly what there comes a window in the afternoon where I'm headed to dinner. And that good thing that I had built, which is dinner with friends, which is love and family and food, became the thing that stopped me from reaching my goals. Because I would save my calories for dinner. I would think like, okay, I've just eaten less in the day, so now during dinner I'm gonna it's fine for me to eat a big dinner, and essentially I think sometimes when we talk about numbing out, it feels like it's you're numbing out into a bad state. The strange thing for me is like I numbed out into the goodness of that meal. I numbed out into the joy, into that person, into that friendship, into the food. It was all good things, but it still numbed me out.
What was happening in those meals? If we look back at some of your best meals that you've had in the evening with your friends, what was happening to you over there that was things that had to be brought out and worked on?
I had subconsciously built a system of life where every night I had a friend and I was eating out. And this became like a source of maybe love or encouragement, but it also prevented me from having time for myself to look at how I'm feeling, to look at my own reflections, my thoughts, what I'm going through, because I'm going like, oh no, we have a great dinner to attend to, and I'm great at being there for other people. But then, like when it comes to me, I'm like, okay, this dinner's great. So a lot of it was that, and when you pair it with the food and the enjoyment and the goodness, I tend to check out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that checking out involved, if we were to look at quantity, so we were to look at, you said one aspect was the over ordering, right? I was over ordering. But what else was happening when you were there, down there sitting with your friends? What was happening to you? What did you observe about your behavior, or what would tend to come up?
I would I would finish everything on the table. I don't know what full is until like it hurts. It almost feels like I disconnect from myself because I've thrown myself into being present for that person. And again, sometimes it's a lot of positivity associated with it. We could be laughing, we could be sharing our lives or catching up. So there's this sense of vulnerability. And it's not that I'm being inauthentic, but it was that I was, it's reinforced then with the good food because all of these things are happening at once. So I didn't even realize I was checking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we realized when we spoke that this might be an area. I even remember the first day I told you, I said, your evening dinners, you're gonna have to reduce them and slow them down. And you looked at me like, absolutely not, Natasha. Like, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
What was playing through your head when I put this out? Because you built, like you said, a system that worked, a system that made sense, but a system that also kept you stuck with food, right? When I suggested that suggestion to you, which is coming into fruition slowly but surely, what was going through your mind?
The first thing that came to my mind was the times that I was alone at home and not having dinner, and immediately it was the huge portions of food that I would order in. And then it made me go like, oh, okay. So when I'm alone, when I have to be at home with myself, physically and emotionally, I just remember like 2 pizzas, 1 pasta. And the funny thing is, when I throw back to the time when I did order the 2 pizzas and pasta, I didn't think, oh, this is too much, or this is over ordering, or this is, it just happened. And when you said, hey, why don't you take some time to be alone, that came up. And when I had a picture of me in my room at a specific spot where I was eating that much food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a fear that you would go back to binging?
Maybe not a fear, but it exposed what I relied on or what I fell back on the moment I was alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it showed up in traveling as well. If I'm traveling alone and I'm feeling like, oh man, I'm going for a job, I'm working and I'm alone, the first thing is like, I find myself eating more than I should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, right? Because when you're alone, when I suggested to you, I think you should take some time away from your friends and maybe have one or I didn't even say cut them out. Guys, I'm sorry. I didn't even say don't have friends. I said take one day to yourself. And even that was it seemed like a threat. But look at these stories that our brain tells us, right? I said take time to yourself. I didn't say eat less. I didn't say cut your calories. I didn't say that. But you said the brain told you, oh God, if I eat by myself, I don't know what I'm capable of, so I might as well eat in front of other people because that keeps me safe and it gives me a lot of love. But also when I'm in front of other people, I am also losing control.
Wow.
And that's the other side of it. So the reason I bring it up, even for those that are listening, that you see how our brain starts to go from higher brain to lower brain, starting to tell us different stories.
Totally. Like, what is that lower brain? I think when you told me that, I couldn't even control my reaction. You told me like, hey, I saw your face when I gave you that suggestion, and I think I looked like horrified at the thought of eating alone or being at home on a Friday night alone. This was something that was tough for me, and as we uncovered it, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what
Absolutely.
it is.
Yeah. I believe it stems or it has exaggerated after that journey that you had where you lost the 10 kilos. Talk to me a little bit about that journey, okay? And along with previous journeys that you may have that allowed you to lose that 10 kilos, including the diet. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so it looked like, oh, athlete on performance mode. Like I am training hard, I'm counting the calories. And that was because my mind knew I'm on a program. I'm on a PT thing. I've paid for it, or I'm doing it for a competition in the media. That was the other time where somebody told me, hey, you need to lose 8 kg. If not, you won't even make it. You won't even stand a chance to make it to the finals because the industry is so based on looks. So there were all these external motivations and pressures, and I would do it. I would do it for everybody else. I would do it because I'm on a PT. I was filming the PT process, so I had to show the before and after. I can't make a video if there's no after, and I failed the PT. So I was zoned in 3 months, dropped the 10 kg. I was so lean. There were great before and after photos, and I went on camera saying, hey, I took ownership of my health and blah, blah, blah. A year later, nothing changed. In fact, it got worse. I was in New Zealand. I remember I ate so much on a media trip because there was free food. I looked in the mirror and I was like, I don't even recognize who I am anymore. And just a year ago, I was in my leanest. Yeah. So this up, down, the ballooning and all of that was always done for somebody else. And that's where I was like, something is really off in this process here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you were on so you lost the weight, you got the recognition, you felt really good about it. How did it feel in that time period where you're now the new you, right? Something that you've always wanted. How did that feel?
It felt, what was so weird? It felt like I could just go back to eating again. And that was something my brain or like who I am did not learn. It's like, okay, great, program ended, video shot, before and after photos taken. Relief. I can go back. I can eat properly now, whatever that meant for me. And the weight gain wasn't as sinister, as quick as like, okay, you lost 10 kg in 3 months, you put on 10 kg in 3 months. It took me about a year, but it was just such a gradual, like, yeah.
Yeah, it was slowly.
Slowly. And you know what's even more tricky for me is because I work out. I got the rest of the stuff in. So here am I thinking like, yeah, I'm fine. I know how to work out. I learned it from PT. But the eating, the dinner, for me was out of control.
Yeah. Because of the industry you're in, right? You're a food and travel content creator. Quite a famous one, I must say. When I speak to some of my clients that know you, they're like, oh my God, Aiken! Like, they love your content. But having lost the weight, showcasing it, talking about it, right? Promoting it. Look at me at my leanest. So you're someone that's in the public eye. To now go through the year having gained that weight back, what was that like? Must have not been easy in the public eye.
Yeah. But that's the other scary part about what I do, is that if I'm a overweight food creator, it makes sense. Nobody will question it. I could absolutely get away with it because I've been doing this for a while now. My audience has seen me when I'm super lean. They've seen me when I put on weight. They've seen me go up and down through the years. It just became, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember there was even like just one message that said, hey, I thought you were like doing the PT weight loss thing that you posted about last year. And I just ignored it. And it's acceptable that you are an overweight content creator. You're more believable, you're more credible, right? But at the same time, I always saw myself more than just a food creator, which is why this always bothered me. I'm not satisfied with being okay at being a unhealthy or a food obsessed food content creator. That's not the life I want. I'm a lot more than that. That's where the disconnect started to happen.
Yeah, because that was going to be my second question to you, that if it was acceptable, then why not just roll with it? And why not just go with it?
Yeah.
Because do you have people around you that are in similar industries that also are completely comfortable with who they are?
Yeah.
And did you feel uncomfortable around them in your own body?
I had somebody tell me like when I lose weight I don't get the jobs.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That was the brand, and I could make it a brand, but I really hated the feeling of like looking at myself in the camera and cringing, knowing that it's not my best, knowing that I can be so much more. And the other thing about that was like a lot of energy, a lack of energy when I'm so much bigger and so much like heavier. When I'm binging, the inflammation, like everything feels like I'm not at my best. And so I always knew like, hey, I'm so much better than this. I could be so much more. And I have more than just food as interest, but I just couldn't find the bridge to like, what if it's not PT? Like I tried that, didn't really work out, then like what is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for being so honest. I know, coming from where you come from, to have to openly admit that and say I couldn't connect, because we see a lot of mukbangers, we see a lot of people in your space, and they do state that it's okay. But what it sounds like now is that if there's a subconscious belief that if I do lose weight, I won't get the job, I won't get that big contract or deal or things of that sort, that give you the green light in some cases to say, yeah, it's okay, this kind of fits in with my persona?
Absolutely. When I was hosting a very prominent food show here in Singapore, I was under so much stress, and I had prioritized everything about that project, about that job, and put myself at the back burner. And that's where I knew I was at my heaviest. But I kept falling back on, I'm a food show host. It's fine. Oh no, I don't look that heavy. No, it's fine. I'm not like that bad, and it's fine. Like it's more believable if I'm, like I I could get away with it.
Yeah.
I was still booking jobs. I was still successful.
Yeah. So, a couple things now that we've addressed, and I want us to see how we've unpacked it together because I think they're so crucial. So, one, being around your friends, that was huge. This is where things used to go around your family, your church, where things used to go downhill for you, the whole numbing out process. Two, the role that you're in, the life that you've created for yourself around food. I remember when I first found out what you did, I was like, oh, this is going to be challenge accepted. Like, it was so interesting. Yeah. But I even remember telling you, Aiken, I wonder how things will be once your relationship with food evolves. How will you grow from this? So that was something huge. Third, that played a huge role. You traveled a lot. So the mindset of, oh, I'm traveling, therefore I need to try out the travel food. I need to enjoy the travel food, be in that mind space. These were the three main components that played a huge role that we had to work on together to, one, help you start losing weight, and two, not have you rely on food in those moments. Knowing what we knew and what we were starting to uncover there, when did it start to evolve for you? Because we've had moments where we've lost weight, we've stalled. When did you start seeing the needle really turn in your favor and direction?
I think so much of our sessions were not even about food. That's the thing. That really blew my mind. And simple things like having a more grounded sense of self, saying no to people. These were the things that made me go like, it's showing up in one area, and it's going to show up in food. So the times I'm saying no to people in life, in my job, oh no, I'm not taking that job. No, I'm not taking that trip. Oh yeah, then when it comes to mealtime, it's like, no, I'm not finishing that food. That's fine. But then there will be times where I'm not thinking, I'm cruising, and then I'm saying yes to too many things. I would actually see it turn up on the scale. So when did it start to turn for me was when, there were so many factors, but if I could say, I think a sense of coming home to myself, learning that there is a part of me in this area that is unequipped, unloved, unskilled, and I'm learning to pick up the pieces, and it's okay. And something you always say, which is like, we can just start by acknowledging that we have a problem with food. That was huge. What's so bad about eating with your friends dinner, right? Like, to admit that to myself, that's hard. To just go like, I really struggle with the dinners. And I think across the board, if you just put this out there, I don't think anybody would get it without the time and the understanding, but I struggle with that. Yeah, so just to acknowledge that, and then to say like, how can I reparent myself in these areas, that really helped me.
Yeah. The aspect of weight loss, okay? Because we, like you said, we never spoke a lot about food. We did speak about your life, how you self-regulate, how you are when you are alone with yourself, because that was really big. You know, I asked you, did you check in with yourself today? I would ask you to keep reminders on your phone. Did you check in with yourself today?
Yeah.
Why was that concept of checking in with yourself so difficult for you?
Where it came to food and even like weight, the first thing is like checking in on the scale, for example, was, oh my. I think everyone, I've heard the podcast, and I know that so many people struggle with the same thing, the fear of the scale. And it came for me when I was young, because we had this like overweight, they called it the tough club, right? Way to name it's fat, spelled backwards.
Oh my God.
Then they put all the overweight kids into tough club. And I remember we had this blue card where you record your weight. And it was such a horrible process because, I stand on the scale in school and I'm the fat kid, and they'll put me into tough club and we write our weight down on that blue card. So that even from a young age, standing on a scale, checking in with your stats was so painful. It was associated with a lot of shame. It was associated with a lot of when everyone gets to eat during recess, you get to run around because you're in the tough club. You have to exercise. It's not a great model, and to be fair, maybe the education system didn't know better, whatever it was. But that was, even to check in with my own weight was an issue of this is too much for me. If I see the scale, it's gonna spoil my day, so I rather not see it, right? And then when it comes to emotions, I think checking in with myself became it was difficult because all my life, growing up in a more in a difficult childhood, lower income family where you're always fighting for yourself, you are attuned to everybody's needs. You are attuned to what they need, what they want, what you need to survive, and then without knowing, I neglect myself because I'm busy making it happen for everybody, or I'm trying to solve problems for myself. So I'm like, I don't have time to ask how I'm feeling. I just need to make the money for school fees, right? I'm not the other kids. I can't. They've got parents who will pay for their school fees. No, I'm not. So I gotta find a way to make the school fees. I do not have the capacity to have a mental breakdown. It's either school fees or mental breakdown. Which one do you want? So I shoved that aside and I survived and survived and survived. And so now checking in on myself is like, what? Like, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so checking in with the scale, checking in with yourself, right? But at the same time, you're still the same person that is always there for other people. So you're checking in for other people. So why was that okay? One side is, no, I can't do it for myself, but I can do it for other people. Because you're very kind, you're very compassionate, right? We've talked about your interaction with your family, with your mother, how loving and caring you are with her. What solace did that give you there?
I think to a certain degree, I also derive my value from being that guy. I solve the problems, I make things happen, I'm funny, I'm entertaining, I am there for other people. So the value growing up was always externally drawn. And therefore, I think when it came time for me to realize, like, I have value on my own, it was a journey of going, like, I don't need to derive it anymore from external sources. Even as something as simple as like my career, I've always been with an agency. So to be independent, come out and be independent when I was in my 30s was like, whoa, can I really do it? I had always been with an agency and I had no confidence to do it on my own. So I had to build that confidence to be like, oh, people still watch and they still remember, like, oh, okay, and it was a journey of learning that, like, I am my greatest friend, resource, advocate, champion, and yeah.
Yeah. It's such a beautiful transition for you, right? From where you've come to where you are even now. And that has played a huge impact on your weight loss, right? Because the impression was, oh, this might be another 10 kilos maybe in 6 months. It might be another 10 kilos, might be a little bit longer than what I signed up for previously. But it wasn't the case. And that is, and just for everyone listening, and a reminder as well, that is the case for most of my clients. It's slow, it's steady, it's just how I like it. Because it is not, here's your diet plan, here we're going. It is life. And it is you uncovering what it is. So how was your experience with the slow weight loss? What were you feeling? What were you thinking along the way?
Like, God honest truth is, up till today, I need to tell myself, I'm not doing this with Natasha as a weight loss program, or, because we are bombarded with that diet culture, that transformation culture, right? It's like there'll be times I'm like, no, she's not going to give it to me for falling off the bandwagon or whatever. In fact, it goes against everything that I sort of have learned from the other programs. So realizing that it's slow is at times very annoying. In fact, as a recovering people pleaser, I always think like, oh my gosh, does she think this is too slow? Like, does she still want to be my coach? Because, man, I'm taking so long to lose this 10 kg. It's been 10 months, I've lost 6, I've still got 4 to go, but I'm like, wow, is Natasha still, like, am I a bad testimonial on her program? And then I realized, oh, okay, yeah, this isn't really about her. Because the last time I told you, I think I told you I wanted to cancel some call because I wanted to give you a good report, but I couldn't. And you simply asked me, why do you feel like you need to give me a good report? And then I was like, it blew my mind because I realized in so many ways I'm still trying to do it for someone else and not me. Yeah.
Yeah.
The good news though is that because there's a lot of failure in between in the 10 months and we didn't just lose it in 3 months or whatever, oh my, it strengthened the new person that I'm becoming. Yeah.
Yeah. The slow and steady, I always say that slow and steady wins the race, but it's 6 kilos that brought out a lot of you, brought out a
Yeah.
lot of emotions, thoughts, feelings. You know, something I've always told you as well, thoughts create feelings, feelings create actions. If we don't change our thoughts, it will not change our feelings, it will not change our actions, right? And so, given how far you've come in your development with food, I want us to list out some of the emotional attachments that you have worked on now that allow you to look at food in a better way, in a more comfortable way. I know there's tons, but some of
Yeah.
the ones that the few that come to the top of your mind.
Oh, the few that come to the top of my mind is I don't have to finish that.
That's a good one. That was a good. What was it in the past?
Oh, there was nothing. It was just reflex. My hands are going for the food. Now, as my hands are going, or at the thought of me picking, it's like, I don't have to eat that. The other one that's really good is I, I literally did this yesterday at dinner. I'm like, am I full? It sounds so simple, but I just needed to ask myself that question and answer that question. Am I full? Take a moment. Oh yeah, I'm full. And that day, I grabbed a bunch of blueberries. And I was like, oh my, am I full? I'm full. I'm satiated. I feel it there. And I'm good. Just something as simple as these two things, to give pause in the meal for my dinners, to know that I'm doing it for myself. It's been a great help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the past, when you weren't giving pauses, what was happening? Were you, because you said something that I really want to touch on, but I want to focus the whole element with this. When we sit with people, sometimes we mimic behaviors, which is it's a part of recovering. It's a part of people pleasing, right? As a recovering people pleaser to another one, I completely get it and understand it. So in the past, when you were there sitting with people, knowing that, am I full now, right? Because you are able to say that to yourself. How is it maybe when you're surrounded by people that might still want to eat, might still want to enjoy, but you've reached your capacity? Because we're no longer trying to, oh, I can eat more than you, or we're eating the
Yeah.
same amount. How is that reflecting?
It varies. There are moments in the dinner where my friends will go like, dude, that's $100 lamb rack. And then I have to go like, yeah, I eat that all the time. It's okay. I don't have to finish that. Or the usual, don't waste food. Okay, you can have it then. I'm good. And the ownership of this is my choice and my boundary. Yeah. And then on the other flip side, that's where I start to notice my friends who have the same boundary. And I noticed like, oh my, he stopped. He stopped way earlier than everybody. And then I go like, oh, he said no. And I'm like, I can be that guy. It's not as bizarre and out of this world as I think it is.
Yeah, absolutely. But that aspect of you noticing your friend's behavior, that you didn't pull out in the beginning.
Yeah.
It took some time for you to start noticing their behavior. So what did you have to start doing? Because that change didn't happen overnight. It took some time, right? It took some time for you to say, enough is enough. I need to stop that. I need to stop this. What did you have to start doing so that you started noticing other people's behavior in their meal? Not that you're saying, oh, they're eating more than me, but so that you could realize what you needed to process. So what was happening there?
Because I had never said no when it came to dinner, it was just a free for all. And then, coupled with the over ordering, when I started to do those two things, am I full and I don't need to finish this, then it sort of made me go like, I'm really not the only one in this. There's a variety of people who, for whatever reason, will refuse food or they're done. That's it.
Yeah.
And then I go like, so it really wouldn't be that strange for me to just say no. Yeah. And I'm so blessed. In majority of my experiences, no one goes like, what's wrong with you? Or did something happen to you? Everyone just goes like, yeah, okay, sure.
But I believe you had to get to that point, Aiken, because you were worried about the fact that they might say that, right? Because that was the biggest fear. I would say, what would happen if you left the food? What would happen if you left some behind? Or what would happen if you didn't go? So it took some moment for you to get comfortable with saying no. It took a while for you to get comfortable with leaving food behind. Was it uncomfortable in the beginning?
Yeah, it was so uncomfortable. Oh my. But you know, strangely, as uncomfortable as it is, because that really is the truth, it's going to be uncomfortable. There was a part that was very empowering. To be able to own your no became really, it felt really good. It felt really good. And it started to spill over in just small things. That day, somebody cut my queue. Old me would just be like, it's fine. They probably didn't. And I just had to say, you know what? I'm not going to abandon myself again in this moment. I won't be rude, but I will say, hey, excuse me, I was in the queue first. You might have missed it. And you can queue back there. And the person said, oh, yeah, oh, so sorry about that. I missed it. And in small moments like that, I began to show up for myself. And that gave me a lot of, it felt good. It was new. And sometimes when I decide to do it, right, because I fear of confrontation, I feel so many things. But when I cross that bridge, it actually feels like, oh man, I did it for me. And that felt really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I want to go back to recovering people pleaser, right? Because there is a huge connection for people that are people pleasers and their relationship with food. And so for anyone listening on what people pleasing is, it's truly being a yes woman or a yes man to everything and anything, bending over backwards, and then finding solace in food, alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever that might be. Based on the fact that you are a recovering people pleaser, tell us a little bit about your people pleasing. What did that look like? How were you bending over backwards? And yeah.
Wow, this one is so. I'll start with I traced this back in therapy, and I asked myself, where did I develop this? Like, I'm walking on eggshells. I'm so scared to offend, and all of that. And it came up that I realized I was living with my mom's boyfriend at the time, and as a child, there would be moments where we were just playing a game, and he would slap my face, and I would have never saw that coming. So I lived walking around eggshells, feeling like I never know when I'm gonna offend. So I can't express that anger. Like if I want to watch wrestling, which I really wanted to when I was young, I couldn't express that because I was afraid he was gonna blow up. And if I was angry with him or my mom in the house, I couldn't show that anger because I'm attuned to whether this guy is a danger, and I need to be so attuned and so aware to his mood, his emotions, that I couldn't express mine. And this then came out with feeling the need to really please my dad to get his approval. So I was doing all I could. Like I was on the, even though I was in tough club, I knew that if I was like good at sports, I hoped would make my dad proud. So I trained so hard till I got into the badminton school team. You know, I would just do everything so that everybody could be pleased, and then therefore I could be loved and valued and seen. So when you sort of bring some of these patterns into the adulthood, first of all, you don't even notice, you don't even realize, right, until like you say, it's a lot of resentment build up, you get addicted, and you're like, what is my life? And so recovering from people pleasing is owning that no, crossing. You know, it sounds so crazy, but the fear of confrontation was so real to me because I didn't know if somebody's gonna slap my face or if somebody's gonna, how they would react. There was a time that I needed to speak out, and I was in the military here. It was a very inconsequential decision, and I just thought, hey, you know what? Whatever the superior is saying is not the truth. I know the truth. This would be a great time to speak out. But then I thought, but who cares? We're in this thing. It's just for 2 weeks. Let's just not do it. But then I went, no, it's a great time to practice. So I put my phone down, and I felt the anger come up in me, and I said, "Sir, I think you got it all wrong. This was what happened. So you getting us to stay back would be very unfair because the protocols on your end were blah blah blah." And he apologized to me, and he said, "I'm so sorry, I didn't know that. Thanks for telling me." And I had to unlearn that if I confront you, you're gonna hit me or you're gonna have a bad reaction. I had to learn that actually confrontation can have real good outcomes. So these are the small ways I've learned to really try and practice, like saying, "Hey, you cut my line. Hey, you were 20 minutes late. I really made time today. I just appreciate if you were gonna run that late, could you let me know in advance?" Just small things, small practices that I don't self-abandon. It will start to show up in food, because then when someone says, "Hey, don't waste the food," I'll be like, "No, I'm good. I'm not eating that. Thank you."
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, it's as a recovering people pleaser, we tend to go back to our old habits at times, right? So it's almost like, remind yourself. You have to kind of shake yourself up
Yeah.
at times. Do you have those moments?
All the time. And because I'm that guy I know where all the good food is. I'm the guy who pays the bill. I want to be that guy, right? And sometimes something as simple as like, everyone here on this table is a working adult. I don't have to get the bill.
Yeah, yeah. That's,
I told you about this one,
yeah, you
right?
did.
I get every meal, Natasha. It's crazy. Why?
What's the need there? What's the desire that you're trying to fulfill?
I It's my way of showing you that I love you and value you, because it wasn't shown to me. This exact way of food and paying for your food and showing my appreciation for you as a friend in a meal is my way of showing you love. But now I know there's really more than that way to show love. And so now I have to, sometimes at bill time, this really is the whole process, right, of eating out. Sometimes at bill time, I'll tell myself, like, everybody here is a working adult. I don't need to pay for anybody. They all know I love them because I've been their friend for so long. I'm there for them in other ways. I don't have to get this bill.
Yeah. How did that working transition happen, Aiken? Because I know people listening will be like, okay, that didn't change overnight, right? You and I have had some coaching sessions where it's like, "Oh, Natasha, I tried, but it didn't happen," and I'm gonna have to do that again. Or, "Natasha, I tried and it didn't happen." And so I kind of want to take people through those failures that you and I have had the discussion. You're like, "Yeah, I'm going to go out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to track my calories. I'm going to make sure I have 3 meals at home this week." And then you would show up the next week and it didn't happen. And which was okay. It was part of the progress. But talk to us a little bit about that. Those moments where we had set plans to move forward, but they didn't. Something was holding you back, whether it be not paying, whether it be tracking, whether it be maybe eating a meal at home and it didn't happen.
Yeah, I think the most prominent, the one that comes to mind is when I'm going through something difficult, like a difficult situation, or I'm trying to deal with a difficult situation at work or in my social life or whatever. When difficulty comes, it sort of feels like I want to default back to my coping mechanism, and that's food. When loneliness comes, when difficult feeling comes, the point of failure comes when I use that to cope, to check out, to feel, to soothe, self-soothe. The amazing and mind-blowing thing, and a way healthier approach now that I think we've established together, is I think I texted you just like literally on my last trip. I said, "Natasha, last night I was traveling alone on a flight, and I was feeling like, damn, I'm so like, why am I doing this alone? And I have nobody here with me, and blah blah blah." And I ate way more than I wanted to. But I got good sleep today. I'm feeling better. I'm gonna get back on. Now it's no longer like binge and restrict. Now it's like, okay, that was a thing. It was fine. Let me get back up. I've still got this. Yeah.
I love that. And how does it show up now in your relationship with food and when it comes to those evening hangouts? I know everyone's going to want to know because that looks very, very different.
I still need to say, like, I don't do it perfectly, and I need to remember that that's okay. I'm still, um, I had a long, like, 20 years of building this safety of evening dinner with my friends to feel love. I've had 20 years of this programming. I need to be patient and kind towards myself to go, like, it might not be resolved overnight, in 3 months, in 10 months, but I want to be aware. I want to be knowing that um, I want to stay present in the meal. There was a time I wrote you a list of 10 things I would say before I go eat.
Mm-hmm.
There was a time where I knew I had to write myself a letter. There was a time, these are just small things where I just make sure that I don't disconnect from myself, because that will translate to food as well.
Absolutely. And what about the impact on your career? The $1,000,000 question.
Yeah, I genuinely the funny thing is, everybody watching will probably think you struggle with food because you're a food creator and you have to film the food, right? So the funny thing is, when it comes to work, I'm good to not finish it because I'm on work mode. I don't have the mood to eat. I'll take a bite, I'll be objective to think about the content and tell you what it is, and then I'm out, right? So for me, the food, where it comes to work, has never been maybe that much of an issue. But at the same time, I've been doing food and travel I've been doing food particularly for a very long time. My previous food show was 200 episodes.
Oh, love. Wow. I need to watch an episode, by the way.
I ate a lot, but I have to say, the reason I'm doing things like this, the reason why we get to do, a podcast on my segment, is because I've also realized, and I would like to now tap into the other facet of me, more than food, more than a brand, more than just where to eat and where to travel to, all these things on the outside. I would love to show a part of myself, a side of myself, to my audience that is meaningful and impactful to them as well. Because I know that they're like me. We are foodies. We are in our 30s. We are starting to ask questions about our childhood, about our life, our habits now. And if I could show that part, it would bring me so much more meaning to my work as well. Yeah.
What are some of the elements of that part that you are uncovering about you that you want to start showcasing?
It started with me. This all was like, okay, let's just only talk about the food and where we recommend whether the food is good and whatever, right? And comedy. So there was another layer of a facade. It's then being in an organic way to just say, actually, hey, I've been struggling with this, and I put it out there a little bit, and people are like, oh, yeah, me too. And then we start talking about it, and there'll be all this sort of advice against going against your niche. Like, what's the food guy talking about forgiveness or being a recovery people pleaser? But I realized that people are multifaceted and we can all understand that. So I really hope that I get to continue to share more than just the leisurely part of my life. Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. I mean, people will always have something to say, right? They will always do. So the fact that you are putting yourself out there and talking about that, I think your audience is waiting for it more than you can imagine.
Right, and I never thought about it that way. So when I started to put out more personal content, the response we got was amazing. It was amazing, and it just affirmed all the more that, hey, this is helping me feel a new level of fulfillment, a new level of connection with myself that I could see myself going on. Yeah.
One of the last elements that I want to speak about, and in your case last, because this is something you struggled with in the beginning, was the future you. But now I'm sitting here, I feel like a proud mama, I'm sitting here and I was like, is he really like talking and planning about his future so openly and so comfortably? I want us to go into that exercise because I believe it's a crucial exercise for every client. The reason I do the exercise, the future you, is because from there we can build backwards. We can see in the vision and we can create very specific goals about the person we want to be. I want to talk about, one, why was it so difficult for you to envision the future you? And then two, what has changed? Because there is a big change that I can see here.
why it was hard to envision a future me was because I think for 32 years of my life, I was on survival mode. I just needed to solve the immediate crisis, whether it's the crisis of me personally not having enough resources when I was younger, or solving other people's crisis, because I made myself available to solve everybody's problems, right? So it was hard to it was maybe not hard but new to come out of survival mode. So that helped me to go, okay, when you come out of survival mode, you still don't realize that you don't know what you don't know. So I didn't know how to practice having a vision at least beyond 5 years, 10 years. I didn't know how to plan far ahead because I always go like, I go with the flow. You never know what happens. And that was just something unfamiliar. What has changed though is I start to ask myself things like, what kind of content do I see myself doing in 10 years, 5 years? And don't get me wrong, it's not that the travel and food are inauthentic or unenjoyable. They still are. But it's just that I can add to that. I can be more than that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's just added pillars,
Exactly.
right? Like added pillar. Because I think people get this impression that in order for me to be this version of me or add this version of me, I need to let go of one version.
Yeah.
Right? It's added pillars. Now, if the pillar isn't serving its purpose, then you get rid of it. But if it's still bringing you joy and enjoyment,
Yeah.
then it's just an added pillar.
Exactly. And so now, I think we took real baby steps when we conceived the future me. I mean, one of the things we worked on was, how does Aiken look like at his goal weight in maintenance? What does he eat? What time does he stop eating? Like, who is that person? And I remember when you asked me that, I just stared at you blankly because I had no idea. But a small step is, one of the things I said to you is, I think he sleeps at 12. And I think he stops eating 4 hours before that. Something along those lines. I kind of knew, like, it's in me already, But when I said it out, it scared me because I'm like, dude, I sleep at 2 now. How am I going to get there, right? And then when we worked slowly, I said, like, Natasha, I think like 85 kg Aiken is not eating after 8:30. I'm like, wow, that's so hard. And you say, hey, 9:30, let's just try.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay. And then I did it, right? So it gave me building blocks of confidence to conceive and then become this person. Yeah.
Lovely. And it can, as far as your weight loss goes, if you want to share with us how much you've lost, I have a follow-up question, but I'll let you share that and we'll go from there.
I would love for this to be that before and after, boom, boom, pow. I've lost 6 kgs in 10 months.
Yeah. And slow, but beautiful. What have you gained in 10 months?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. I've gained and recovered pieces of myself that were missing. I've gained a connection with a part of myself that I didn't even know was crying out for help, broken, in pain. And I'm able to courageously walk towards him and assure him and take it step by step. And it's largely thanks to you coming along and holding my hand with me. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I'm going to leave us with one last message for you to leave behind for people. I always ask people, because there'll be a lot of young people watching, there'll be content creators watching that might be stuck in the way they are and where they're feeling. What is a message that you would like to leave individuals?
Have the courage to face yourself, your pain, your past. Have the courage to feel it all. And then have the courage to believe that you can have the life that you want. You can recover and heal so that you can be all that you want to be. Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Aiken.
Thank you so much, Natasha. I really wouldn't be where I am today without your help.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your story, for being so open, honest, vulnerable. And where can people find you for your current content and your future content to come?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. I wouldn't blame you if you don't want to follow me if you're struggling with food, but we've got like great heart-to-heart conversations about topics like this as well and about life in general. But you can look for it under Aiken Chia.
Yeah. For travel recommendations.
Oh,
too.
yeah,
Have some
absolutely.
of the best ones out there.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Aiken.
Thank you.